welcome back to the Mike Bates Show. This is Mike Bates. The good news of the week, should it turn out to be true, is that Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, or Meta as they call themselves now, announced that they will end their Stalinist censorship practices. Now, I want to comment on what he said, but before I do, so that it will make sense to you, I want to play for you what he said. Now, this is almost 5.5 minutes long, but it is his statement in its entirety. Here we go.
Hey, everyone. I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote non-stop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems, they're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
All right, so that's what Mark Zuckerberg said in the video that he posted earlier this week, saying that the company will no longer censor free speech. And if it turns out to be true, good. Because I think big tech's censorship is one of the biggest threats our republic faces. But I do want to make a few comments about a few things he said. He began by saying that 5 years ago, he gave a speech at Georgetown about the importance of protecting free expression. Well, as soon as I heard him say that, I did quick math in my head, and it wasn't that hard. It was easy math. 5 years ago, now that was before Facebook removed Donald Trump from its platform. Really? Protecting free speech means removing the sitting, at the time, sitting President of the United States? On what grounds did you do that, Mark? Were you protecting the president from himself? Or were you protecting the American people from the president? Well, I argued then and will restate now that neither would be appropriate. Because if the president really is saying something so stupid or dangerous, shouldn't the American people know that? Of course they should. The other thing is that he said he would get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes. Well, I'm not exactly sure what community notes are. I think it basically means just a free-for-all of commenting of people going, oh, that's true. Oh, that's not true. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, is to, is not. I don't know. But I do like the idea of anything replacing the so-called fact checkers, because the so-called fact checkers have for years been nothing but political activists who label something as false, that is, opinion, and who allegedly correct the facts by stating their own opinions. Very rarely does a fact checker actually check facts. So hopefully they really are getting rid of those. As for him saying that he's going to rely on users reporting misbehavior versus the algorithm automatically looking for it, we'll see what happens. Because prior to that, things did only get taken down when they got reported by a human. And I had countless. I've been in Facebook jail, I'm not exaggerating, at least 24 times. And on at least 3 or 4 occasions, it was for a month at a time. And I took one of those months to wander through Facebook. Now remember, I couldn't comment on anything or like anything, but I searched for inappropriate posts. And I spent a month reporting them. And at that time, you'd always get a message a few days later saying, okay, we reviewed your report and took it down. Or, hey, we reviewed your report and we left it up. You'd get some kind of a response. And almost all of the ones I reported were left up. I can't tell you what they said because they were the most vile, disgusting posts you could possibly imagine. And this radio station would lose its license if I said almost any of the words that were used. Mark Zuckerberg said that the content moderation teams will be moving from California to Texas, an acknowledgement that California is a bunch of leftist fools. But Texas, although we think of it as being a red state, if he's moving them to Austin, Texas is just as crazy as Berkeley, California. The last part he said about working with Trump to resist censorship around the world, I hope that does happen, because people should be allowed to speak freely not just in the United States, but around the world. And those who advocate censorship, my question is, what are you so afraid of? If somebody says something you don't like, then counter it with your opinion or your statement to the facts. Don't suppress the speech. So if Facebook really does return to the days of free expression, that'll be a good thing. And we'll see if the other social media companies follow. That's all I have time for today. I'm Mike Bates. Thanks for listening.